What is up, everyone? I am Bishop Brother and you are watching the team analysis video for the Pittsburgh Pyroar, coached by Mr. Spirit. Some of you may have seen this analysis already. This is a re-upload, however, due to the previous file having to be deleted from YouTube for corrupted reasons. I don't like them at all. So, this is the second version of the team, and once again, I'm just going to go ahead and talk over his entire team, which I personally think is the best team in the league and is gonna win it. But we'll get into that later. I'm just going to start by talking about his Latias. Latias is an incredible Pokemon. I personally drafted Latios, of course, so I'm going to talk about what sets it apart from its brother. Both Lati twins, of course, are incredibly are great offensive threats, while still having solid bulk, allowing them to take quite a few hits as well. They have a great supportive move pool, consisting of Thunder Wave, Roost, Defog, and the like. I believe they even get things like Dragon Tail, which is really nice. In general, they are very good. Latios, however, also gets access to Healing Wish, which allows it to heal up a sweeper all over again. And of course, moves like Wish, allowing it to support its team even more. But Latias is not just relegated to a defensive role on the team, because with the 110 base special attack, it can potentially be a fearsome Scarfer, or a Wall Breaker, or even a Calm Mind Sweeper. It is a great Pokemon that is very versatile, and I think we will be seeing a lot of Latias on Mr. Spirit's team. It is capable of supporting the team or winning on its own. Really an amazing Pokemon, really good draft pick. I really like it. Next up is Mega Venusaur. This thing is a defensive monster. So hard to break down. You really need a dedicated counter to this thing, otherwise you're just not gonna kill it at all. Like, it's just not gonna happen. With that thick Fat ability, it's no longer weak to fire or ice, and it's only weak to flying or psychic, which are not the most common offensive typings. I think, however, in the Draft League format, it's relatively easy to just choose to have one of those two typings available to you to destroy this Mega Venusaur, so it might not be the best in the Draft League format, but I definitely think it's very powerful, and you really have to prepare for it very well with a dedicated counter in order to beat it, and that could seriously restrict team building, which is never a good thing. Of course, Mega Venusaur also gets coverage moves like Earthquake, allowing it to beat Steel and Fire types, as well as be able to pretty much wall it completely. Of course, poison it also hits those poison types with wall it. HP Fire hits Steel types as well as Grass types, which might otherwise be a problem. It's a great Pokemon, though usually defensive roles are relatively easy to prepare for, but you really do need to prepare for it very well. Next up is Zapdos, which really synergizes with Mega Venusaur incredibly well. This is such a good pick, because its typing means that those flying types with being Mega Venusaur are no longer as easy to bring, and Latias already covers the Psychic types. So I think this was a really good pickup. Its electric typing blocks those flying types, as I said before. It's capable of grabbing momentum with Volt Switch. It has access to Defog as well, which is already a second hazard remover on the team in the first 3 Pokemon. And can be a serious threat if you're not careful of it. It also has Heat Wave to beat Steel types that otherwise are kind of a problem for his team. And it is a very good Pokemon once again. I think this score of these 3 is going to come to pretty much every match that Mr. Spirit plays, because they are simply that good. Of course, Zapdos also has a reliable recovery, just like Latias and Mega Venusaur too. Really good defense Pokemon, and we're going to be seeing a lot of this thing. Now, next up is one of the few picks on Mr. Spirit's team that I don't fully agree with. I've talked about this with him personally, and he said he just drafted this because he wanted a water type. And while I agree with him, and that his team did need a water type, I don't think Tentacruel was the right pick. Tentacruel is a poison type, just like Mega Venusaur. And it has the ability to layer down Toxic Spikes, which is really nice for a team that is as defensive as this team. So in general, it could be quite a good pick. However, because it's also a poison type, it's another weakness to Psychic. And his team doesn't cover it very well. Latias, yes, it resists it and can fire off some Shadow Balls, but it can also take the Shadow Balls back from opposing Psychic types. It's not going to take on a huge threat like Mega Alakazam or whatever to just stop that thing from beating up his entire team. And I really think that is something Spirit's team does struggle with. I would have liked to see something more defensive here, maybe, or either something more defensive that can take on those heavy psychic hitters, something especially defensive, like an Empoleon, though I believe that was already gone at this point, or a Crawdaunt, which I would have personally been a huge fan of, Crawdaunt here, or even Torrent Greninja, which we allowed from UU, as that would have threatened those psychic types very heavily, and it would have simply meant they wouldn't have been able to sweep his entire team. And they still can't. I really don't think that one psychic type is going to destroy his entire team, but I definitely think he needs to fear them very heavily. And I would have liked to see something else here, but Tentacruel is definitely not a bad Pokemon. Gives him another hazard remover, allows him to layer down Toxic Spikes. It can definitely work, I just don't think it's the best pickup here. Also because of the lack of reliable recovery, means that he needs Wish Passing from Latias to fully get that, to allow him to keep continuously wall. Now, next up is a Pokemon that I do really like on this team, which is Infernape. Infernape is capable of beating up Steel types. His team did struggle with Steel types. Yes, Zapdos gets Heat Wave. Yes, Mega Venusaur often uses HP Fire or Earthquake. Latios can break through them with the Hidden Power. And Tentacruel's Scalds are not resisted by them. But he didn't really have a good way of dealing with them. Infernape is a very good way of dealing with Steel types. Both his Steel types are weak to both his Step types, meaning that he could seriously hurt them. He has an amazing move pool, allowing him to hit very hard from both the physical and the special side. He is oftentimes seen as a suicide lead. I don't think that will be the case on Spirit's team, because he really needs a powerful wall breaker, and that's what Infernape gives him. I really like this pickup. I think it can definitely do very well. It is so versatile. I can't even talk about everything it does. It's a Scarfer, it's Specs, it's Bandit, it's set up with Nasty Plot, it's set up with Swords Dance, it's set up with Calm Mind. It is such an offensive threat. You really need to be careful for this, and it's not going to be easy to prepare for this, like, at all. However, it is another weakness to Psychic, so once again, be very careful of the Psychic types, because they are gonna be a threat to your team. Now, next up is a Psychic type of his own, Meloetta. And while I think Meloetta is an incredible Pokemon, it's very bulky from the special side. It will take those hits very easily, is capable of setting up Calm Minds, and potentially sweep an entire team. One problem that I do have with it is that he has a Latias. I think Meloetta is an incredible Pokemon, incredibly versatile. But I don't really see a reason to use Aria form Meloetta, the normal form, if you have a Latias. Because Meloetta, yes, it can set up Calm Minds, but it doesn't have the recovery that Latias offers in that role. Yes, it can be a Specs wall breaker, but Latias can also do that. And without a good secondary stab type, I know Meloetta is normal type, but Hyper Voice is not exactly the best secondary stab move there is. It's simply outclassed by Latias in its role, and for that reason I think Pirouette for Meloetta might see some play on his team. As that fighting type is definitely scary, though that is also weak to Psychic. I'm not sure. I think Meloetta is a great Pokemon. I know Spirit really likes Meloetta as well. He knows it a lot, knows it very well, and I think he can make use of it very well. I am just not sure how he uses it with Latias right there. And Infernape as well. Like, you can use the Pirouette form, but that's only going to be for the surprise factor. So, because you already have Infernape to be the fighting type wall breaker. I'm not entirely sure how he's going to use this thing, but I definitely think it's a threat and has to be dealt with well for every team. It's not going to be easy to deal with this thing. And as such, I think it's a decent pickup, not the best though. It could have definitely had something else here. Now, next up is Cofagrigus. Very good Pokemon. That's really all I can say about it. It's incredibly defensive, it's really hard to break down, especially from the physical side. It's capable of layering Toxic Spikes, which, yes, he had Tentacruel for that, but I don't like Tentacruel as a pickup anyway, so I think Cofagrigus will see much more play as a Toxic Spike setter. He is capable of setting up nasty plots, allowing him to potentially sweep a team in Trick Room if he feels like doing that. It's just a great defensive force with access to things like Will-O-Wisp and Pain Split. It can really cripple an opponent's Pokemon. I think this is a really smart pickup. I really want to see him use this very well. That weakness to knockoff is annoying, but whatever. It gives him also kind of a way to deal with Psychic types, especially if they're Psyshock over Psychic, because he can easily take those all day. I think this was a really smart pickup. So, yeah. I don't really have much else to say about this. I'm just going to move on to his Liepard. I don't like Liepard. Because, I'm going to restate that. Liepard is a good Pokemon. It is quite strong and can definitely hurt. I just don't like it on this team. This team really needed a Psychic immunity. Liepard does have that Psychic immunity. But you cannot switch Liepard in every single time. I've talked about this with Spirit, about this exact situation. We talked about why he went with Liepard, and he said yes, it's a great offensive threat, and yes, I recommended Crawdon a second ago. But I think Crawdon threatens out Psychic types way more than Liepard does. Because while Liepard is fast, it doesn't have the craziest attacking stats in the world. I just don't really know if Liepard was the right choice here. I would have rather seen a different dog type, maybe even something like Vullaby from the lower tiers. Fill this void, essentially, of a Psychic immunity that this team really needed, because you cannot keep switching Liepard in, because if, let's say I am using my Latios and I'm constantly clicking Psychic or Psyshock, and he comes with the Liepard and I switch out, and later on I get in with Latios again, and I predict his switch into Liepard this time in a Draco, and Liepard is gone. Bulkier dog types do not die to that Draco Meteor. Liepard does, and that is the problem. It's hit so hard by coverage moves. I'm not sure if this was the smartest pickup as a Psychic immunity, but it is a Psychic immunity, which is what this team very much needed. It's an offensive powerhouse, and it has great utility in its kit as well with the prankster ability. I think this is a good Pokemon, just not necessarily on the right. It's not necessarily on the right team. Next up is Rhydon. This thing with its Eviolite is crazy bulky. It's not quite to the level of Rhyperior, but it's definitely very, very bulky. It lacks the solid rock ability, which kind of sucks, but it's very good. Rock ground timing is generally quite bad, and I would be against it on most teams. But his Vega Venusaur covers both of those weaknesses pretty well, with water and grass, of course, as well as that fighting weakness. And Tentacruel also covers the water weakness. It's capable of switching into grass types that are going for Giga Drain because of Liquid Ooze. Infernape can deal with grass types. Latias can deal with both decently well. Zapdos can deal with grass types and water types. I think his team covers those two weaknesses well enough to be to make Rhydon happen, I guess. To justify having Rhydon on the team. Like, I usually don't like Rhydon because of those heavy weaknesses and being relatively easy to prepare for a bulky Pokemon. But on Spirit's team it fits quite well because those weaknesses are covered for quite nicely. So I like it. It's a good rock setter as well. Good pickup. And next up is Ursaring. And this thing is a threat. Like, a lot of times when in a draft league you see people pick up their threats from the top tiers and then in the bottom tier to pick up some supportive Pokemon. This time, that was very much not the case. Ursaring is a huge threat. With that quick feed ability, if that Toxic Orb pops, it's gonna be faster than your entire team. It's going to be. If it gets the Sword Stance up, with those boosted facades are gonna be crazy powerful. It's so ridiculously strong. Honestly, this is just such a good pickup. It's already very hard to prepare for a team like Spirits, with so many good defensive Pokemon, as well as great offenses in Infernape, for example, and of course an offensive Latias or a Meloetta or whatever. And then you also have to prepare for Ursaring. I just think it's a really smart pickup, because it essentially means this team, you cannot prepare for everything on this team. You have to figure out what your what Spirit is gonna bring, and you have to prepare for those 6, because you can't prepare for all 12. That's just not gonna happen. And I think that is something that is really hard to get, and I think Spirit did it. And Ursaring is the embodiment of that, as just a lower tier threat that can very much sweep a team. Similarly, I think Regis can do something similar. I am looking to see Regis's Rock Polish set put in a lot of work for Spirit. Yes, its defensive typing sucks. Yes, it is weak to Mach Punch, meaning a sweeping set is hard. Yes, it's not the best Pokemon in the world, but it's still good. Like, it's still something you have to prepare for. You're still going to want a Mach Puncher on your team in order to deal with it. You're still going to want something that potentially outspeeds it after a Rock Polish. And it has good bulk as well, especially on the special side, but also somewhat on the physical side, meaning it might even take 1 or 2 hits. And that's just incredible. I think Regis was another really smart pickup. And yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say about Regice. I don't know the Pokemon very well personally, but I definitely think it was pretty smart. And lastly, we have Armaldo. Now, I personally know Armaldo very well, and I know exactly what it does in that it's a hard hitter from PU. It's a great rapid spinner. It's capable of setting up the rocks for itself. Its rock bug typing is really bad defensively, pretty good offensively. But I'm not sure where this fits into his team. He already has Tentacruel for rapid spinner. He has Defog and Latias into Zapdos. And he has a Stealth Rock Setter in Rhydon. You're never going to bring Armaldo over Rhydon if you want a Rock Setter. I'm not entirely sure if this fits. Spirit himself said that Armaldo was essentially okay, it's the last round, I have to pick something. It doesn't really matter, I'll just pick something with bug coverage to deal with some Psychic types. Valid point. I mean, you did need to deal with Psychic types. I just don't think Armaldo is the right Pokemon to do that with. But you also have point, you had to draft one more Pokemon from PU. I would have liked to see a Vullaby in this slot and then maybe something else in the Liepard slot, but we've talked about that already. So yeah, I think that's honestly about it for today. His team in general, great defenses with some powerful wall breakers. Maybe a slight lack of a win condition, but Ursaring can definitely fulfill that role. Infernape can, Calm Mind Latias can, Trick Room Nasty Blood Coverage can. Just maybe they're not the best at it, but they can do it. Like, I am not going to underestimate this team at all. It's a great team. I think this is going to win the league. And that's been it for me today. So for now, I'm out. Peace.